Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Show on the Gruely Truth Sports Network. The NFL Show, as always, is brought to you by Path of Purity. Check them out at pathofpurity.direct to get a 2-month supply for the price of one. And basically, you put a tablet under your tongue, goes immediately into your bloodstream, and then it lasts for 12 hours, time released over those 12 hours. So make sure you check out pathofpurity.direct. I'm your host for the NFL Show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host, Sam Teets. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing great, Mike. How about you?
All right. And today, since we're a little bored, now on Monday, Super Bowl week, make sure you check us out as we'll have NFL All-Pro running back Rocky Bleier from the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think he's got 3 or 4 Super Bowl rings. We'll talk to Rocky about that, talk to him about, Sam's Pittsburgh Steelers and what they're going to do now, because seems like they've got a mess, Sam. But make sure you check us out Monday for Rocky Bleier. We'll have guests all week next week, so make sure you check us out at 1 o'clock Eastern time every day, Monday through Friday. And Friday, we'll tell you who's going to win the Super Bowl. All right, Sam, we're going to start off. I always let you pick my list apart. I didn't write a list. I just jotted some notes down. And we'll go ahead, and I'm going to start off with 32. I think the worst draft last year, and there's no question about that to me, is the Denver Broncos. There was not a single rookie in the Broncos 2020 class to generate value above expectation. Their first 4 selections, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, Michael Ojumidi, and Lloyd Cushenberry, all played over 500 snaps. All 4 failed to crack the 25 percentile at the respective position in Pro Football Focus. This is a draft that when you look at it, I still hold out hope for Jerry Jeudy, but this is not a good draft, especially for a team that needed a good draft.
I think that's ridiculous to have them that far down. So at least you have productive players. I don't care about Pro Football Focus. They didn't have them in the top 20 percentile, whatever it was. If you want to look at production, the Houston Texans had the least productive draft class out of this group by far. Their top pick was Ross Blacklock, a second-round guy who barely saw the football field. So I think Denver can't be last. There were far worse draft selections here.
Is that the only one that you can come up with that's worse?
Oh, I can say the Saints. Zach Ball wasn't very good. He was a second-round pick. The Packers were worse. The Titans were worse. I think the Patriots were worse because it's a long-term projection. They didn't play much this year. The Raiders were worse.
You're hurting my feelings right now, Sam.
Yeah, well, I don't get to do this very often. Usually it's the other way around.
So you're just doing this for the hell of it, aren't you?
Well, yeah, obviously. I do everything for the hell of it.
Oh, you do?
Sort of.
You've been hanging out with Steve Risley too much, haven't you?
Oh, yeah, because, start the basketball show and all that. The college basketball show with Steve Risley. No, it's not going to happen.
Why not? That's just mean. You should do a college basketball show. I know nobody cares about college basketball right now, but they will when you get to March.
That's true. Everyone will start watching again, hopefully.
Just tell him to start it in March.
He'd probably get a lot of views off of it.
We probably would. And I'll do it with him if you don't. My number 31 is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Both of Jacksonville's first-round selections, C.J. Henderson and defensive end Chasen, generated value well below expectation this season. I'm sure you want to pick this apart, but to me, outside of Henderson in week 1, there's not a lot here. I do think that Shenault looks like he might be a good pick. I think he was the one positive rookie performer for Jacksonville.
Yeah, they had 12 rookies in this class. And because they had so many draft picks, you would expect them to hit at least a couple of them. I still hold out some hope for C.J. Henderson because I think there were some positive games last year. But I think Shenault is by far the one with the most upside. Chason was an absolute disappointment. And I do think if I had to make a list, I'd probably put them a little higher than you have them. But I can't really disagree with them being towards the bottom of the list because they weren't very good this year. They only had, like I said, one standout rookie in Shenault. And other than that, everyone was at best average. And everyone else didn't play nearly enough snaps to really qualify as productive players.
All right, number 30. Let's go with the Las Vegas Raiders. And I think all 7 of the Raiders' 2020 draft picks were selected within the first 4 rounds. This should have been a no doubt great draft, correct?
Oh, yeah, you needed to get production in this class immediately.
They didn't. And Henry Ruggs at some point showed off great speed, but that was about it. And this draft, to me, could be what ends John Gruden, because this is a draft where they really needed to make hay here.
And you take Ruggs, you're making the first wide receiver taken. There end up being, 6 or 7 wide receivers that were better than Ruggs in this draft class already. So I think that's a big lost. And Damon Arnett obviously was a puzzling pick at 19th overall. I don't think many people had him even going in the first round. The one positive I can plot here is you did take Tanner Muse in the third, which might have been a little high. But I watched him at Clemson. He could be a decent hybrid linebacker safety player in the NFL. He just got hurt and didn't play his rookie year. So right now, actually, I have the most hope for him just because I haven't seen him play yet at the NFL level.
Yeah, and am I wrong here? When I look at the Raiders, I think, one more wrong move, and they might be the fourth best team in this division because the Broncos, I think, are close. If they could get a quarterback, they might become better than the Raiders right there. The Chargers have a lot of talent, and then you got the Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, let me put it this way. If the Broncos sign Andy Dalton in the offseason and they're smart enough to start Andy Dalton over Drew Lock, they're already better than the Raiders. I think it's that close. I think they would be better than the Raiders if they just play Andy Dalton.
Well, I believe this. If the Raiders don't have a great offseason, I think John Gruden could be fired at the end of next year.
I don't know. The ownership puts a lot of faith in John Gruden, Mike. They make a lot of bad decisions there.
They put a lot of money into him, too. And also, if you look at the quotes from their owner, Mark Davis, who looks like a 12-year-old boy with his haircut. But when you look at that, I don't think they're as sold on John Gruden as they were when they coughed up $100 million for him.
Well, I think for $100 million, you should expect at least one winning season by now. In fact, they haven't had one or haven't had a playoff season at the very least. Puts them in hot water, I believe, going into next year. But 10 years, $100 million, Mike. I mean, that's a lot of money.
Wonder what the buyout is. Probably all of it. Number 29, the Detroit Lions. Sam McGinnis's team. Their prize pick, Jeff Okudah, I thought was very bad. And the only two guys that I really see on this list that really played a lot were Jonah Jackson and John Penasini. Neither one of them looked very good. This was not a good draft either. And in the end, maybe it's what killed Matt Patricia.
Yeah, I think the best thing taken from this draft is you had Jonah Jackson, you had Logan Stenberg, who kind of played a little bit there along the line. The offensive line was actually a lot better in Detroit this year than it has been in past seasons. So I think that's probably the best takeaway from this draft class. But I agree with you. This is one of the worst draft classes in the NFL because Okudah was the third overall pick and an absolute whiff. He was terrible as a rookie. And missing third overall, I mean, that should be what broke Matt Patricia's career. It probably wasn't because it's probably just his actions, the way all those players seem to resent him, or a lot of players seem to resent him. But really, messing up this draft is huge. That's one of the reasons why the GM's not there either. I still hold out some hope for DeAndre Swift, but I think there's going to be lower expectations than the guys like Cam Akers is going to be better next year. Jonathan Taylor will be better. Edward Solaire will be better than DeAndre Swift. He might be the fifth best back in this draft class.
Yeah, and really, these bottom 7 or 8, any of them could be the last team. But there's a lot of bad drafts here. My number 28, I think, is where I am, is the New York Giants. Fourth overall pick, Andrew Thomas. Not a good pick. Darnay Holmes. I don't even think he's one of the top 100 cornerbacks in the NFL. Shane Lemieux, a bad guard. I mean, this was a bad draft also, and this is a team that couldn't afford it. They can't afford to keep missing on offensive linemen, and I think they missed big time on all the linemen they picked here.
Yeah, and if I recall, I didn't have Andrew Thomas as a top tackle going into the draft. You convinced me that he's tackle available.
Who did?
You did. I had Wills ahead of. Granted, Wills is probably the third best at the very most, but I had Wills ahead of Thomas, and I had Wirfs ahead of Thomas. And you convinced me to move Thomas up to number 1.
So why would you do that? Just because I convinced you? That's stupid.
Yeah, but I think I agree. You can't keep missing the offensive line here. That's what's really killed the Giants. They haven't been able to build up this offensive line. I'm curious to see what Xavier McCain does because I know he missed most of his rookie year. That's a safety from Alabama. He was a great second pick at 36 overall. So I think there's still a little hope here. But unless Andrew Thomas makes a huge jump in year 2, I mean, this is basically a full draft.
How about this, though? Is the issue not with the Giants, the offensive line coaching? Because when you pick guys repeatedly year after year and you never develop them, are the players that bad, or is it just the coaching? Because you've got to have – I mean, out of every position on an NFL football team, I think the most valuable guy is if you've got a great offensive line coach.
Well, they fired their offensive line coach about midway through the season. If I'm not mistaken, Thomas played a little bit better in the second half than the first half of the year.
That's kind of my point. So don't give up on ranking him number 1 yet. Number 27, but as of right now, we can't. And at number 27, I got the Miami Dolphins. They had, first-round picks, Tua Tagovailoa, Austin Jackson, and Noah. I'll call him Iggy. And none of these guys, I think, performed the way they needed to perform for this team. And the thing that's amazing here is they had as good a season as they did.
Yeah, the most productive players from this team or from this rookie class probably were guys like Robert Hunt or Raekwon Davis, who they got in the second round. But Noah Igbinoghene, I think that's how you say his name.
It doesn't matter. Call him Iggy.
Yeah,
it's easier.
Yeah, Noah Iggy and Austin Jackson and Tua Tagovailoa were all obviously below average players this year. Tua struggled. He got replaced by Ryan Fitzpatrick in a couple of games. And then taking Iggy at 30th overall was one I just didn't understand. There was Jeff Gladney was still on the board. Cam Dantzler went in the third round, who was much better. I just don't get that one.
Yeah. 26, I got the Tennessee Titans. They could have been 32nd also. Hell, their best player was 7th round draft pick, Chris Jackson. And I would like to say that I put this together in like the last hour and it took 5 minutes. But number 20, at 26, we got the Titans. And I think that they had no rookies from what I read that even played 300 snaps.
It might have been Christian Fulton. Maybe Christian Fulton got there at corner. But I know he was limited in games. I think he only played maybe 6 or 8 games this year. I'll look it up. But other than that, I know the first round pick, Isaiah Wilson, at right tackle, didn't play very much at all. So they've had issues there. And you're right. Christian Fulton only played about 205 total snaps in the rookie season. So they got no production out of them. I really think this could have been the 31st team in terms of draft classes if you were ranking them, right above the Texans at 32.
I don't even have the Texans that low.
Why not? What did the Texans do? What did the Texans? Where do you?
We'll get to them in a minute. Jeez, back off. All right. Number 25. I got the Baltimore Ravens. You gonna disagree with me here?
All right, explain.
J.K. Dobbins had a good year, but when you consider position he plays, is it really that valuable? Linebacker Patrick Queen, Tyree Phillips, who were both fairly high picks, top 110. I don't think either one of them played very well. So you tell me why I'm wrong by ranking them this low.
Patrick Queen struggled a lot in pass coverage, but he made plays for them, which, as you informed me, making plays and working with an assistant they have defensively is the thing that matters, not necessarily pass coverage.
But he gave up plays. But this is the thing. There's a difference here between him and Devin White. I mean, Devin White's making plays all over the place. And the other thing about Devin White is if you watched him those last couple playoff games and at the end of the season, he was much better in pass coverage than what he was. Patrick Queen didn't improve at all. He might have even got worse.
I don't know how the heck you have the Houston Texans above this. I mean, right now you've got guys like Dobbins. Dobbins alone would be good enough to put this team above the Houston Texans and probably in the top 15. You also got guys on the other side of the ball, like even guys like Devin Duvernay didn't play a lot. Malik Harrison at linebacker didn't play great. But just the fact you can plug and play about 4 of these guys and have them be contributors right away. You have about 6 of these guys make starts in their rookie seasons. That's more than what you get from most teams.
Yeah. Well, number 24, I've got the Houston Texans. And no team had fewer snaps by their 2020 rookie class than the Texans. Collectively, they logged a total of 847. That is largely due to, of course, Bill O'Brien trading away their 2020 first-round pick, along with their 2021 first and second-round picks. Yay for Bill O'Brien. It's like he's going to Vegas to bet against them. What do you think?
Well, he's got to be doing that. That's what I would be doing from Bill O'Brien right now. I'm not in the NFL anymore. Why would I care? I mean, at this point, if they trade Deshaun Watson, everyone's going to be betting against him. That will be an 0-16 team without Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, so you don't like Ross Blacklock?
No, I mean, he didn't do very much. He's not a pass rushing defensive tackle. He's kind of a run stopper. But right now, they just don't have anything else there. They've got nothing.
All right, you got a freebie there because actually I'd forgotten the Houston Texans. I've listed another team twice. That's what happens when you make up your mind what you're going to do the show about in the last hour. But we will have Rocky Blyer here Monday. Number 24, I think, is where I'm at. And at 24, I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philly had 16 rookies that recorded a snap, but nobody made it a big impact. Maybe the biggest impact was Jalen Hurts, who, for a game or two looked like he might be the guy. Jalen Reagor battled through some bad quarterback play. I don't think we can blame it all on him, but he didn't do much on his end either. He produced, I think, a little over 60 yards receiving a game. So this is another bad draft.
Yeah, this is not a great one. You took Reagor ahead of Justin Jefferson, which is the unforgivable part if you're Philadelphia. And Rieger had 396 receiving yards, had a couple of good plays, but good plays alone don't make a great season. Kayvon Wallace in the defense was, he was all right. A rotational secondary player at most right now. And Jalen Hurts, taking that quarterback, Jalen Hurts, it really comes down to what does Rieger do in year 2 when he's healthy? What does Hurts do? Is Hurts able to out-compete Carson Wentz? I don't think it will happen, but if he beats out Carson Wentz and plays well, this draft class could jump up. But I don't expect it will. I think this will be one of the worst draft classes in recent history for the Eagles.
All right, where are we at? Number 23. Keep track of the numbers because I'll forget. The Carolina Panthers, even though I've got them written down. And the reason Carolina isn't lower than any lower than 23rd is one pick, and that's Jeremy Chin, who was selected 64th overall. Meanwhile, Derek Brown, Matos, Pride, Roy all had seasons well below what would be expected of them. Jeremy Chin's the only thing that gets him this high.
Yeah, Derek Brown was 7th overall. This guy had comparisons to Ndamukong Suh coming out of college, and 2 sacks this year. There are about 34 tackles. It's a total letdown. Obviously, this guy can still develop. We see it happen all the time. But Jeremy Chin was a guy who, arguably, if not for the final 4 weeks of the year where Chase Young looked great, I think Jeremy Chin would probably be Defensive Rookie of the Year otherwise. He was very productive. Linebacker safety hybrid who ended up scoring 2 touchdowns and just put numbers up across the board. I think he saves his draft class. Otherwise, like I said, very disappointing.
All right, number 22, the Dallas Cowboys. And much like the Carolina Panthers, the reason that they didn't go any lower was just one guy, and that was CeeDee Lamb, who I think played pretty well. You had Ben DiNucci, the 7th-round pick. He's not very good. But he did play. There's nothing else here good that I can bring. CeeDee Lamb saves their ass.
I think Trevon Diggs might get a little underrated here because he's playing with such a bad group of guys around him right now. I think Diggs, there's still hope for him. I think he'd still be a starting caliber corner. So I like Trevon Diggs right now.
Yeah, but we got to judge off what we've seen so far, though.
Yeah. Well, so far, like I said, it hasn't been great. Lamb was well on pace to have over 1,000 yards before Dak Prescott goes down, and of course, Dalton gets COVID and a whole bunch of other stuff implodes. But basically, Lamb would have been a Pro Bowler this year. He would have been around 1,200 yards this season had everything worked out well.
All right, who we got next? I got to look at my list.
Number 21.
Number 21. It doesn't matter what number it is anymore. I've lost track. I get the Arizona Cardinals. Outside of Isaiah Simmons, they got virtually nothing out of this rookie class. 4th-round defensive end Leki Fotu and nose tackle Rashard Lawrence were 2 rookies. That's about all I could say about them. So right there, a third of the NFL drafts right now are crap. And 3 of them were only saved because they got decent first-round picks, I think.
Yeah, I would put the Cardinals even lower. I think the Cardinals had one of the 10 worst draft classes here because Simmons had a good second half of the season, but he was not even playing a lot of snaps for maybe the first 8 weeks of the year. And then once he got out there, he started making plays. But before that, the first half of the season, Simmons was basically non-existent in this defense. And he was the only thing, like you said, that helped this draft class out. So I think you put this one way too high. I would have him much lower.
All right. Well, we still haven't got to a good draft. The Cleveland Browns are next. They had 4 picks in the first 2 days. Grant Delpit missed the campaign with a torn Achilles. You had Jedrick Wills, Jordan Elliott, Jacob Phillips, and I think all of them performed under expectations.
Yeah, the most productive players from this class, obviously Jedrick Wills, you have to say was decent as a rookie, but you expect him to be better. Erickson Bryant probably outperformed his value the most at tight end. He had some good games, even though he had some fumbling issues at different points during the year. But even he only had 238 receiving yards. That tells you how bad this rookie class was. Maybe Delpit saves it by coming back next year and Wills improves. But so far, if you're the Browns, to have the picks you have and not get better players, you have to be very disappointed.
Yeah, we'll just start ranking them once we get to a good draft, which I'm still not to. The Seattle Seahawks. Damian Lewis, their 3rd-round selection, I think still needs to improve a lot. But I think he was one of the more valuable guards in the NFL this year. Outside of that, though, 2nd-round pick Darrell Taylor didn't play it down. 1st-round pick Jordan Brooks hardly generated anything. Another bad draft by Pete Carroll, who, once again, I will say, should be fired. Yeah,
Pete Carroll and John Schneider have had a lot of bad drafts recently, and this was definitely one of them. Taking Jordan Brooks, this was supposed to be the replacement for KJ Wright, but KJ Wright still played better than Jordan Brooks, even though he's taking fewer snaps during the season. I think the best piece of this draft actually was Alton Robinson, the 5th-round pick from Syracuse. He didn't play very well in 2019 college, but in 2018 he had a monster year. And on limited snaps, he did have 4 sacks this season and 22 tackles. I think that was probably the best value pick for Seattle. But otherwise, I mean, these guys, I don't really think there's a starter here. I don't think there's a starting caliber player to pick. I know Lewis started. Maybe he's the lone starter, but everyone else, they look like backups.
Yeah, we get to the Green Bay Packers. Another bad draft.
This is one of the worst.
They drafted Jordan Love, 2nd-round running back A.J. Dillon, 3rd-round tight end Josiah DeGuara. They all combined for a total of 122 snaps. Undrafted free agent Chris Barnes was probably their best rookie, and he wasn't in the draft. So this is another bad draft, and this is Aaron Rodgers' problem. Aaron Rodgers' problem is not Aaron Rodgers. I gave him a lot of crap, but the thing is, it's the front office in Green Bay, it's the coaching in Green Bay that are really holding Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers could be even better than what Aaron Rodgers has been, I believe. I think it's the Packers front office that's killing them.
No, I absolutely agree with that. I mean, this is probably the 3rd worst draft class in the NFL from last year. I think it's bottom 5 by far.
Hell, I think it could be the worst.
I mean, yeah. The only thing you could say is A.J. Dillon had one 100-yard game this season. But A.J. Dillon, you don't draft a guy from Boston College. He wasn't that, let's be honest, he was productive in Boston College, but he wasn't that great of a draft prospect. They took him too high in the 2nd round. Now you're probably going to let Aaron Jones walk away and be disappointed by what A.J. Dillon does next year. And you drafted Jordan Love, who's not going to play for another 3 or 4 years. I just don't see how this Green Bay draft. I mean, this was awful. This was a total mistake.
Yeah, and we're still at bad drafts, and I think we're halfway through now. The New Orleans Saints, they lacked draft capital for the 2nd straight season. They only had 4 picks. Cesar Ruiz, who was up and down in his rookie campaign, I wasn't big on him to start off with. You got Zach Bond, who did next to nothing. Tight end Adam Troutman maybe was their best pick, the tight end, number 3, and he didn't do a whole hell of a lot either. So once again, when you're the Saints and you're going to be hitting that salary cap, well, you got to be letting people go. You got to hit on draft picks to be able to continue success.
Well, and the issue with them is they hit on the draft, what was it, 2018, 2017. They had all those guys they hit on, and now they're all up for contracts. And really, you're in a situation, like I said, Adam Troutman was probably the best draft pick they had this past year, which is really not great for them. Cesar Ruiz, they put him on the offensive line. They're probably going to have to let one of the other better offensive linemen go this offseason. Zach Blount, linebacker. I mean, did he do anything? He had maybe 20 tackles the entire year. So I think this was a terrible draft class for the Saints, an organization that is usually pretty good with the draft, although they took Marcus Davenport maybe the year before that. And that was also a very curious selection.
All right, number 15. Now we get to decent drafts. Just decent, but we get to 15. The New York Jets. I think offensive tackle Mekhi Becton, he actually lived up to expectations, and I think he exceeded what I thought. And this is why, I mean, I think the Jets have a future here, especially if they could get Deshaun Watson, or even if they're rolling with, Sam Darnold. Now, a couple of the other picks, Ashton Davis, outside linebacker, Jabari Zuniga, fell well short of everything. But you had 2nd-round wide receiver Denzel Mims, 5th-round quarterback Bryce Hall, and Javelin Guidry all provided more value than expected. I think that this draft right now is average, but I think that Mekhi Becton is going to make this a good draft in the end.
I think Mekhi Becton already has made it a good draft. I mean, the fact that he's performing the way he did as a rookie when there were so many concerns coming out of college, I mean, he's far outperformed my expectations. I thought he was far too raw of a prospect to do much in the rookie season. He still played well. Mims battled injuries the entire time. He still had a decent rookie season considering the fact he only had maybe 8 games to go on, plus he was dealing with those injuries. Ashton Davis played a lot of snaps, but was somewhat disappointing. I think Jabari Zuniga, the guy you mentioned at the round, I don't think he even made the team. I think he got cut shortly after being drafted.
He didn't. I watched him play.
Did he?
Yeah. Well, he played at the start of the year. I don't know if he's still there.
I think he played in preseason. I don't know if he played.
Well, I never said he played. I said that he sucked. So there you go.
Oh, no, he did play. I don't know who I was thinking about then.
I don't either. You had me confused.
I made a mistake, but Bryce Hall, though. Bryce Hall in the 5th round was a great pick. I really like Bryce Hall.
All right, number 14, the Atlanta Falcons. Actually, I could see having the Jets above the Falcons.
I think I put them there too.
But neither the 2nd-day picks, Marlon Davidson or Matt Hennessy, played all that well. I think AJ Terrell, I think is still going to be a good football player. And I think that even though a lot of people don't give him any credit at all, I think there's a lot more positives there than what I expected from him. And also, I think they found some value in the fourth round with linebacker Michael Walker. And when I look at that, Walker and Terrell, I think are going to end up being really good picks. So it puts them above the other half of the teams that were crappy in this draft.
I think Terrell is going to be a really good pick. I liked him in college. I thought he was going to be more limited when he got to the NFL. I thought taking him where they did for Atlanta was a little crazy. I think it was 16th overall. I thought it was too high. I thought it'd be more towards the back end of the first round. But honestly, compared to C.J. Henderson and Jeff Okudah, who went before him, he was better. So I think taking him at 16th overall now looks pretty smart for Atlanta.
Well, I think what people don't realize is cornerback, outside of quarterback, is probably the hardest transition to make when you get to the NFL. And we've seen a perfect guy to me is Eric Thomas, played for the Bengals, 1987 rookie year, got torched left and right. By 1988, he's a Pro Bowler. And I mean, it takes a while to learn how to play that position in the NFL. Playing cornerback in college is completely different than the NFL, and you're playing against a whole different breed of athletes. You might be in college playing in the SEC, and as an outside cornerback, line up against 5 or 6 guys that are NFL caliber. Everybody you line up against in the NFL is NFL caliber. So that's why I think that AJ Terrell played pretty good, because there's not too many corners that come in and all of a sudden they're studs in the NFL.
Well, you think about it, he's one play away in that Kansas City Chiefs game. He almost has an interception, but hits the ground, which hits his elbow and kind of jars the ball loose. So he picks off Patrick Mahomes there to win that game for Atlanta. I think a lot more people are talking about AJ Terrell if that one play falls his way.
All right, number 13, the New England Patriots. And I think the most impressive here was the 6th-round pick of Michael Onwenu, whatever the hell his name is.
Yeah.
I think he might end up being the biggest steal of the entire draft. And that's why I have him this high.
No, you're absolutely right. And he was one of the best offensive linemen in the NFL this year. I think you can make a listing of players who played at his position, and you could have him inside the top 7 maybe, who's that good. So I really like what we saw from him. The rest of this draft class.
I think Kyle Duggar's really good.
Yeah.
Especially considering he came from a Division II school. And I mean, I think he more than held up. And that's saying a lot, because safety is not quite as difficult as corner to get used to, but it is difficult. It probably also helps to Bill Belichick's your coach. But I think Duggar and the guard, because I don't want to screw his name up again, are going to make this a really good draft in the end. Number 12, the Chicago Bears. 2nd-round pick, Jalen Johnson, had a bit of a roller coaster, but I think he showed signs of life towards the end of the year. What's your take on them?
I like Jalen Johnson. I think he's a starting caliber corner, which is why we landed him in the 2nd round. I think that's great value. I still like Cole Kmet. I know he didn't have a great rookie season. I still really like Cole Kmet. I just think you need to use him differently and put a quarterback back there who can throw him the football. I mean, Cole Kmet could really have a 500 or 600-yard year if you just give him a quarterback.
Well, and the 5th-round pick, Darrell Mooney, the Tulane wide receiver, I thought was uber productive, especially for a guy that was a 5th-round pick.
Yeah, I think 600 receiving yards, or somewhere between 500 and 600 receiving yards for a guy of his stature in a draft class series. He finished like maybe 7th or 8th in receiving yards among rookies, which is really good considering you're a 5th-round pick in a draft class. It might have been the best for wide receivers in the past decade.
All right, number 11, I've got the San Francisco 49ers. You had Brandon Ayuk, and I think he was the saving grace of this. He and interior defender Javon Kinlaw, I think, are what get him up here. I'm still not convinced with Kinlaw. I mean, he looks like a football player, but it's the old look like Tarzan, play like Jane. I'm a little worried there, but Ayuk was a great pick, I think.
No, Ayuk has been everything you want. It's kind of weird because they have Ayuk and Deebo Samuel at this point, and they're both good receivers. I just don't know if either one of them is a true number 1 receiving option. So you kind of have like 2 number 2s in my opinion right now. I don't know what they're going to do with that. But Kinlaw, I really think this whole draft kind of hinges on Kinlaw. You traded away DeForest Buckner. And Kinlaw has to be hit. Kinlaw has to be hit for them. Otherwise, you really took a net loss as a front office.
All right, number 10, the Los Angeles Rams. Jordan Fuller. I think Jordan Fuller played really well. Cam Akers was a great pick. But Fuller sticks out. I think Fuller's going to be. I mean, for a 6th-round pick, Jordan Fuller, I think, far exceeded expectations.
Fuller was phenomenal. He intercepted Tom Brady, I believe, twice in that game against Tampa Bay. And I got to tell you, you have this one too low. I really think you have this one too low. I think they have enough.
I think it's just 2 guys, though. Just 2.
You think it's just Jordan Fuller and just Cam Akers?
Yeah. Who else do you think here really deserves to be ranked that high?
I still leave some hope in there for Terrell Burgess. I like Terrell Burgess coming out of college from Utah. I still leave some hope in there for him. I think you will get more contributions from Terrell Lewis and maybe Van Jefferson in the future. I don't know. I just feel like this is overall.
Yeah, but we can't rank them by what we think they might do. You know what I mean?
I know. I just feel like this class, compared to some of the ones we were talking about previously, this class is much better.
Well, they're ahead of everybody I talked about previously, Sam.
That's kind of how it works, I guess.
Yeah. Number 9, the Buffalo Bills. Now, they were without a 2020 first-round pick. Defensive end A.J. Apenzia. I don't know. I suck at names that aren't easy. Everybody's last name should be like Richards or something. I don't think he played very well, but I think Buffalo deserves a top 10 spot. Large part, Zach Moss, Gabriel Davis, who we saw make some big plays in the playoffs, and cornerback Dane Jackson. Right there, I think those 3 players are better than what the Rams pick was.
All right. I think Zach Moss was decent for a rookie. He was not phenomenal, though. I mean, 481 rushing yards in 13 games, 4.3 yards per carry. It was all right year for Zach Moss. He's not going to break the scales. I think Gabriel Davis probably had the better year. Tyler Bass, I think the kicker, though,
I forgot about Tyler Bass. But the thing is this, all these guys are 3rd-round and lower picks. That's why I'm saying they did this without a first-round pick. And we saw teams like the Cleveland Browns and whoever else that had 3 or 4 picks in the first 2 rounds that completely missed. And, I mean, Gabriel Davis, I think, is a dude that could develop into a really good number 2 wide receiver, and you've already got a number 1 in Stephon Diggs.
I think you have to knock him down a spot for taking Jake Fromm.
Why?
Just because.
You just hate him because he plays at an SEC school.
It's no mistake that I don't like the SEC particularly. I just think taking Jake Fromm in the 5th round is kind of a weird pick.
All right, my number 8, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Chase Claypool makes this pick. I think he was one of the more valuable non-first-round picks. And once again, I rank him this high just because I think they did really well for not having a first-round pick. I mean, Alex Highsmith, I think, was kind of hot and cold. But I think overall, when you look at a 3rd-round pick, you can't expect much more than what you got there.
Yeah, I was worried about how we're going to replace Bud Dupree this offseason. But looking at how the cap situation is working out right now, even if Ben restructures and saves $19 million for the Steelers this offseason, you're not going to be able to go out and sign a lot of free agents. So I think Alex Highsmith is going to be a star going into next year. After what I saw at the end of the season, I'm honestly not that upset. He was not as good as Bud Dupree, but for a 3rd-round pick, he's good enough that he'll thrive alongside TJ Watt and Cam Hayward.
All right. My number 7, the Minnesota Vikings. Now, if they would have got more than 2 guys that really tore it up, I could see putting them higher. But Justin Jefferson, great pick. He was the best wide receiver in that draft, I think. And quarterback Cameron Dantzler. With those 2 guys, I mean, Jefferson to me should be the rookie of the year. Dantzler, he's a typical rookie corner. He endured a roller coaster season. But the thing is this, a lot of guys don't even have a roller coaster season their first year at cornerback. It's just all bad. So I will put them at number 7. Most of that is just based off of Justin Jefferson.
I thought Dantzler actually played really well. If you're talking about the best corners in this draft class, him and Terrell probably. I mean, those 2.
Yeah, but there's no corner in this draft class that we say is elite in his first season. And that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's roller coaster, but roller coaster for a cornerback is not all bad because bad corners usually stay at the bottom of the roller coaster. They don't even get on the roller coaster.
Yeah, Jack Gladney, who
that brings up the fact that I really miss like fairs. There's no more fairs because of COVID. I didn't get to go to the fair last year.
Well, we don't have fairs out here in New Jersey, so I don't know what that
you
really
don't have
like.
Fairs in New Jersey? Do you still got Coney Island?
Oh yeah, I guess we do.
See, we
got fairs.
We got a Coney Island in Cincinnati. Did you know that?
No, I didn't. You do?
Yeah. Well, I've went there. I don't ride rides though because I'm afraid of heights. I don't even like being this tall.
You don't like being 6 feet tall, Mike?
No, but I do. I like to go to the fair because I don't do it anymore because now we just walk through it and leave because it's really boring. But it's just the fact that I didn't get to. But, they used to have the little football toss thing where you stand like 15 yards away, you throw the ball through the tire 3 times, you get a stuffed animal. I used to really be able to impress the girls when I was a teenager.
I did go to a lot of amusement parks when I was a kid. I spent a lot of money shooting, like trying to shoot basketballs through an oddly shaped hoop and never getting them through. But I spent a lot of money in that kind of stuff.
The key there is to bank it in.
Yeah, I know. Oh, I know. I figured that out eventually. I started banking the shots. I did win some stuff later on, but when I was a kid, I always tried to go for the swish.
Oh, they used to stop me. So you win like 2 or 3 times and you're banned for the rest of the day.
Yeah, they realize you're too good. You figured it out, and they can't let you do it anymore.
Yeah, and it's Indiana, so they always lost their ass coming down here anyways. Number 6, the Los Angeles Chargers. Quarterback Justin Herbert. I think we could say he was a success, better than what I thought he would be. Linebacker Kenneth Murray, average. But Justin Herbert here puts him at number 6.
No, I agree. Justin Herbert alone here is really what carries this draft class. There's some intriguing guys here, and guys like Joe Reed, KJ Hill, Joshua Kelly, who took some snaps because the running back position was kind of a revolving door for them after Eckler got hurt. But this whole thing is being carried by Justin Herbert. We talked about Patrick Queen not necessarily playing well as a rookie. I mean, Kenneth Murray played worse than Patrick Queen. So at this point, I think Herbert is the one carrying this draft class right now. Because he was so good as a rookie, I do think this is a deserving spot in the top 10.
All right, number 5, the Washington football team, or as I like to call them, Sam, the Redskins. And I mean, Chase Young, he was pretty damn good this year. Running back Antonio Gibson, pretty damn good this year. I'll tell you, Cameron Curl here, considering he was a 7th round pick, I think, wasn't he? Cameron Curl.
Yeah, he was 7th rounder, yep.
Yeah, was a really good pick.
No, he was phenomenal for them because they had Landon Collins go down and get hurt. So Curl comes in, he starts 11 games for them, has 3 interceptions, and ends up being a very productive player in the back end of a team that had a decent secondary, not a great secondary, but a decent secondary behind a defensive line that was anchored by former first-round picks, including Chase Young. And if Antonio Gibson stays healthy, I'm pretty confident he'll be an 1,000-yard rusher in the future. So I really like what Washington does here because they have 3 starters, 3 quality starters from this one draft class.
All right, my number 4, the Kansas City Chiefs. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I don't think lived up to expectations. I also think this. I think unless it's like Derrick Henry or Walter Payton or Gale Sayers or Jim Brown, picking a 1st-round pick as a running back, I think is a huge reach. I think what saved it here, though, was linebacker Willie Gay and their cornerback, L'Jarius Sneed. I think both of those guys far exceeded what anybody thought they would do. And once again, this is something that the New England Patriots did where they usually drafted well, especially from the 3rd round down every year while they were in their dynasty. And the Kansas City Chiefs, you picked up a linebacker, you picked up Sneed, who is a very good safety. And when you look at that, I mean, and Sneed played a little corner also. So they picked up guys with value, even though they didn't start picking till number 32, Sam.
Well, and Sneed's been making a lot of big plays for them this year, especially down the stretch in the playoffs because they've had injuries at cornerback. So he's come in, play a little bit of slot, play a little bit of everywhere, honestly, this year for the defense. I don't know if I would have them this high just because, like you said, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was a little bit of a disappointment. I thought Willie Gay was good but not phenomenal.
Well, how about this? I think with him, though, I mean, I think he's going to be a really good running back. I don't think, and this may sound crazy, but I don't think it's the best situation for him being a running back. They're not going to throw the ball a whole hell of a lot. Or they're not going to run the ball a whole hell of a lot.
No.
And you know what? Even Helaire out of the backfield, I'm still throwing Travis Kelce or Tyreek Hill.
Well, that's true. You're not going to have to hit him very often. He would probably thrive in a different situation.
Put it like this. I think he'll be productive, but he won't put up the kind of numbers he could have put in like in Indianapolis.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If he was in Indianapolis and stayed healthy, you probably would have an 1,000-yard season. You might get 1 or 2 of those in Kansas City, but let's face it. When you can throw at Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Tyreek Hill, all those guys you have, or you can run the ball, you're going to be throwing the ball most of the time.
All right, number 3, the Indianapolis Colts. I could see him maybe even higher. Wide receiver Michael Pittman was a great pick in the 2nd round, 34th player. And that's another thing about these last couple drafts. Nobody had a 1st-round pick. The best value pick, I think, was Julian Blackmon, who flipped to safety during his final season at Utah. And after he had some underwhelming years as the outside corner, but I think he played really well this season. And Jonathan Taylor, who started off rough the first 6 or 7 games of the season and then really turned it on afterwards. Jacob Eason, I think, was a good pick, even though we had no clue because we haven't even seen him play a preseason game since there wasn't any. So overall, I think this was a really good draft by the Colts.
Yeah, Julian Blackman right up there with Jordan Fuller is one of the best safeties taking this draft class. I think Pittman didn't get as many looks as he probably should have this rookie year. I think he missed a couple of games. But Pittman, to me, is still going to be a very good receiver. I still really like Pittman a lot. And, of course, Jonathan Taylor being the only rookie running back to run for 1,000 yards this season, you have to look at that as well. I could see this draft class being even higher. There are 3 quality starters here. I could see this one being top 2, if not being the best one.
I think the top 2 are unquestionable. And number 2, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I could see them at 1. 1 and 2 could switch. But I think the Bucs hit home runs with Tristan Wirfs and safety Antoine Winfield. And Wirfs has been historically good for a rookie. And Winfield is a huge player in that defensive backfield. So I think those 2 guys right there, they got guys that if they can re-sign them every year are starters for the next 10 years at 2 really important positions on an NFL football team.
Yeah, I mentioned Jeremy Chin earlier, potentially winning the Defensive Player of the Year if you just took out Chase Young. I think Winfield would be in that conversation as well. And Wirfs was already playing like an all-pro when he came into the league. And he really has helped them quite a bit. That offensive line was not very good entering the season. And now, late in the year, especially in the playoffs, they've been performing a lot better, which is why Tom Brady's been playing so well. The big issue with this draft class is Keyshawn Vaughn in the 3rd round. You basically waste that pick on a running back who hasn't played, who probably won't play in the future, and just does not fit what you need in a running back room.
Well, everybody does at least one of those. Hell, half the teams in this draft did it their entire draft.
This means you put the Bengals number 1.
Yeah. Do you disagree? Honestly, do you disagree?
No, I had the Bengals in my top 3 anyways, so I can't really complain about that.
You've got Joe Burrow, who was great through the first 9 or 10 weeks till he got hurt. You got T. Higgins, who I thought was the 2nd best wide receiver in this draft. The other things you got here, you got Logan Wilson, who played really well at linebacker. Akeem Davis-Gaither, who at the end of the season really come on and played well at linebacker. So I think you've got 4 starters here for the next 10 years. Of course, if they all get re-signed, they're Bengals, so they won't. But I think Joe Burrow, T. Higgins are the best 1-2 pick in this draft by far.
Yeah, I guess. I think they're probably the best duo, and you have to give a little value to the quarterback spot here. So you got someone, Joe Burrow, who you're not going to be able to replace. Obviously, though, did get hurt. We didn't get to see a full year, but there's no one in this draft that's going to match what Joe Burrow is going to be capable of doing. At least that's what you keep saying, and I keep believing it. So until we're proven otherwise, I'm still going to go down with the ship.
Because you know it's true, because you watched him completely hammer Clemson. And that was after and they were down 17-7 at the start of that game.
That was also a college game that happened over a year ago at this point.
It doesn't matter. I'm just saying that's why you buy in, because they beat your beloved Clemson Tigers.
There's some truth in that statement. I can respect the quarterbacks that are able to beat Clemson.
All right. You got any news you want to talk about?
We didn't bring up the other day, but that Texans head coach who got hired. I can't even remember his name off the top of my head. But
so we're going to talk about the Texans' new head coach. You can't remember his name.
No, I can remember. It's David Culley, and he was with the Ravens, obviously.
You didn't remember it. You just looked it up.
I just pulled it up on my phone. I pulled his resume up on my phone. He was an assistant head coach and a wide receiver coach with Baltimore. And he's been with a bunch of teams, obviously, but never anything above an assistant head coaching role. I mean, does this make any sense? Is this just Tennessee taking a guy or Houston taking a guy because he was the only guy who would possibly accept the job? That's what it feels like.
Yeah, because I don't think anybody really wanted to accept this job, did they?
I don't think so. I mean, if you're talking about the guy in Buffalo, Brian Dable, the offensive coordinator, I don't think he even took this job seriously. I'm pretty sure he said, look, I'm just going to go back to Buffalo for a year and wait for better jobs next year.
Well, I think it's also difficult to understate what a fractured mess the Houston Texans are right now. And, you know, they're kind of operating like my driver's ed teacher, which basically he would take a nap while we drove and then he'd give us all A's. There's nothing here. I mean, the general manager is a joke. I think Coley is probably a good coach, but my issue here is that the Texans will likely stockpile a ton of draft picks when they trade Watson. And my thing is this: will they take input from Coley on who they're going to draft, or are just
Knows they hired the GM first,
or are they just kind of forcing him out there to kind of take the brunt of criticism, which while they build a team, and then eventually in 2 years they fire his ass and go get the coach that they really want?
That's what I think is going to happen. You're going to have Nick Caserio, GM, there for like maybe 5 years or whatever. They're going to give him a couple years to think about this and try to build this team back up, realizing that's a total mess. But this guy, Coley, is going to get – I think he's going to be blamed for the shortcomings here in the first 2 years. And then when things start turning around in year 3, they're going to have a newer, younger coach getting to start. Because Coley will be the oldest head coach or oldest head coach to make his debut in the NFL. That was an interim head coach in NFL history. So he's up there. He's like 67, I think, already.
Yeah, he does have a good defensive coordinator, Lovie Smith. So he's got that. Maybe Lovie will be the interim coach halfway through the next season.
You know what? That's probably what's going to happen, though. I mean, right? When he gets fired, Lovie Smith's going to take over.
Yeah.
He's the most qualified, or he's the most experienced one, I guess.
Well, I don't know if he's the most. Lovie Smith, didn't he take a team to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, he did, but wasn't. Yeah, it was the Bears team, right, with Rex Grossman, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so he took a team with Rex Grossman to the Super Bowl. I don't think that could be understated. That's pretty good.
That's true. And he did have a couple good years, maybe 4 or 5 really good years in Chicago. And then he went to Tampa Bay, and, of course, it was Tampa Bay, so everything went downhill pretty quickly.
Well, unless Tom Brady shows up, then things don't go downhill right
away. Tom Brady tends to make everything better, Mike.
You think so?
Well, just football-wise, at least.
Well, I think Tom Brady makes everything better anyways. But what the hell? I think Lovie Smith should have been the head coach there before David Culley. Yeah, Lovie Smith was 89 and 87 during his NFL career. 92 and 90 counting the playoffs. NCAA not quite as good at 17 and 39, but he was stuck at Illinois, so
yeah. What do you expect?
Nobody's wanted Illinois since Mike White in the mid 1980s when they made the Rose Bowl against UCLA. Do you remember that, Sam?
I think it was that was a while before I was born. How did it work out, Mike? Give me the background. Give me the details.
Well, it worked out that he upset Ohio State. He upset Michigan in 1984. He got him all the way to the Rose Bowl against UCLA. The starting quarterback for Illinois, if I remember correctly, was Jack Trudeau, and UCLA beat him like 45-9. The only other Illinois team that was any good was like 2007 when they made the Rose Bowl and USC hammered them. Can you tell me who the quarterback was for the 2007 Illinois Fighting Illini? Yeah.
Oh, he ended up in the no. No, I'm not going to be able to tell you this. I'm going to hate myself as soon as I know the answer.
Juice Williams.
Oh, no, I'm not shocked I didn't know that one. Actually, I don't feel bad about not knowing that.
Juice Williams was a stud, though.
I'm sure he was, but...
Yeah, I kicked his ass, though, in arena football.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, he played for the Chicago Blitz when I was with the River Monsters, and I didn't even have Jared Lorenzen on the team, and we smoked him. So we lost Sam. Sam must have got tired of hearing about it. There's Sam. No, but I was saying they came to the Bank of Kentucky Center in 2014. We played them. Winner goes to the playoffs, and we smoked their ass. We were up 48-14 at the half because they couldn't figure out the defense because we messed with his head. That and he was afraid to run by then because arena football is not that fun to take off running if you're the quarterback because you get them hard walls and stuff.
Makes it a little bit more difficult. There's no soft landing places.
No, you could actually throw a dude into the stands and it wasn't even a penalty. So you
know, that just sounds more fun.
Oh, hell, it is. You got to watch it sometime. I think that game is actually on YouTube where you could see me get a back-to-back 15-yard personal fouls, too.
What did you do?
I believe I may have said some unsavory words to a referee.
Oh, no, that's hard to believe.
It is.
No, it's not.
It is if you know me now because I'm not that bad now. But back then, yeah, I was pretty bad, especially since in arena football, they had a rule that the head coach couldn't be kicked out of the game. So
really?
I still hold the record in professional indoor football. I got 6 personal fouls called on me in one game in Marion, Ohio.
You know what? That's probably a fun rule to abuse, though, not being able to get
Well,
thrown out.
it was
You have
fun
too
to
much
abuse
protection.
because of this. They made a really bad call, and I was mad, and they had moved us. We were already on the 1 yard line. You can't really move us much more. So I just verbally abused this referee for probably 10 minutes, and he kept throwing flags on me, and they could only move the ball so far back. So I just kept going, and then the other official who I got along with came over and said, "Hey, we think we could move this along. It's supposed to snow tonight. We'd like to get home before it." So then I let it go. What the hell are you gonna do? I was just having fun, though. It wasn't mean and harm. I wasn't trying to be mean or anything. I know all officials are stupid. I'm not holding it against them. And if there's any officials out there that are listening that are mad, well, if you're an official, you're an idiot too. All right, Sam. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, that's everything, Mike. I think we got
I'm
everything.
sure, like a week from Monday, when we look back at the Super Bowl, we're going to talk about some officials' call who had something to do with the game.
There's always one.
Yeah. And then I'm always interested to see who will get the positive COVID test, to see who misses the game. I think it would be really awesome if we could have Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes both test positive for COVID right before the game.
Who's the back? Is it Blaine Gabbert in Tampa Bay?
It would be Blaine Gabbert against Chad Henne in the Super Bowl. So you would go with the second greatest, most historical matchup of quarterbacks in Super Bowl history to the worst. Because I don't think this is the most historical matchup in Super Bowl history between two quarterbacks.
Are you going to say Ken Anderson versus Joe Montana?
No. I mean, to me, this is easy because I lived through it and I know how big it was. Super Bowl 19. You had Dan Marino, who in 1984 set records nobody thought anybody would ever do against Joe Montana. And the first half was a great football game. And then towards the end of the first half, the 49ers defense just started bludgeoning the Dolphins, ended up beating them. I think it was like 38-16. But that was more historical to me. Dan Marino against Joe Montana. Because I'll also make the case, and you'll get to edit it soon, that Tom Brady's not necessarily the greatest quarterback of all time. It may be Joe Montana.
I'll enjoy editing that. All right.
Well, my point is this. What people don't realize, Montana was 4 for 4 in Super Bowls, never threw an interception. He led a game-winning 92-yard drive for a touchdown to win the Super Bowl. But the other thing you got to realize is, like 1981, Super Bowl 16, when they beat the Bengals, the 49ers leading rusher was like Earl Cooper, who ran for 400 yards that year. And they beat the Bengals. They beat the Dallas Cowboys before that. They beat the New York Giants and Lawrence Taylor before that. 82, they sucked. 83, they lost in the NFC Championship game that may have been fixed because the officiating was so bad. When you watch that game, to watch the Redskins get the benefit of every doubt, the 49ers should have won the game. Then 84, they win the Super Bowl. 85, let's see, what did they do in 85? 85, they lose in the playoffs. But what you got to consider is, during that time, to even get to the Super Bowl, you had Bill Parcells' Giants, you had Mike Ditka's Chicago Bears, you had Joe Gibbs, who may, if there's any coach that has a argument about who the greatest coach of all time is, it's Joe Gibbs, because he won Super Bowls with Mark Rippon, Doug Williams, Joe Theismann. None of the three are legendary. I mean, Joe Theismann was really good. Doug Williams was a great quarterback in Tampa Bay. He was the backup quarterback that took over for Jay Schroeder when he got hurt in Washington. So when you look at the competition they had to beat, I mean, it's hard to look past the fact that I think in the 80s, the NFC was by far the dominant conference, because the only Super Bowl that was won by the AFC in the decade of the 80s would have been Super Bowl 15 with the Raiders beating the Eagles, Super Bowl 18, Raiders beat the Redskins, and then the two Bengal 49ers Super Bowls were the only games, the two Bengals 49ers Super Bowl games that were even close. And I mean, the Denver Broncos, when people said that Elway didn't have anything around him, he's still John Elway. He beats John Elway 55-10. He beats Dan Marino 38-16. Kenny Anderson, who should be in the Hall of Fame, he beats, and Boomer Esiason, who he sucks. But that's three legendary quarterbacks plus Boomer. And when you look at it, also, he had to compete against the guy who I think gets underrated. I think Steve Young is a top 7 or 8 quarterback of all time. And you had people in San Francisco calling for Steve Young to be the starting quarterback as early as 1987. And also, you only had 10 complete seasons because of the injuries he took. He got knocked out in 1985 when missed most of the season. 1991 missed most of the season. And like the Leonard Marshall hit in the 1990 NFC Championship game where he gets hit in the back and Marshall lands on it, that's probably a penalty today. So it wouldn't even happen because everybody's so afraid to hit the quarterback that they back off. Jim Burt knocks him out of a game, which Jim Burt would have probably been kicked out of the game for. You know, he had 2 year-long season-ending injuries, which shortened 2 seasons there. And then he leaves San Francisco, goes to Kansas City, and immediately takes him to the playoffs. 2 years later, he's in the AFC Championship game against the Bills, and he gets knocked out of that game with an injury, with a blindside shot that probably wouldn't happen if they were playing today. So I think the NFL is much different. I think the rules are much tougher, and it's hard really to argue with perfection. You know, it's like boxing. Rocky Marciano was 49-0. All the kids today will say, well, that don't mean he never lost. There's a lot to be said for somebody that never loses. He was in 4 Super Bowls, won them all. Tom Brady did lose 3, probably going to lose 4. So,
well, yeah, but would you rather get to the game and lose or not get there at all is the question.
I would probably rather not get there at all.
Really? I think I would get there and lose. I know it'd probably would feel worse.
I can tell you this. I've made it to championship games and lost. I've won championship games. Losing a championship game is horrifying. I mean, you actually have nightmares about it for years after, especially if it was a close game. And especially if you're a coach that made a really bad decision and lost one of them, which I did in Marion, Ohio, back about 5 or 6 years ago. Now, there's also the 5 or 6 where I made the right decision and won, but we're not even going to bring that up right now.
No.
Because I can tell you this, the 5 or 6 I won does not eliminate the one we lost that I thought was my fault. That haunts me more than the other ones I think about.
I was even listening to something earlier today where Rob Ninkovich was on TV talking about his greatest Super Bowl moment, or the thing he remembers most from the Super Bowl appearances he had with the Patriots, and it was the one they lost to the Giants. It was the loss they remember, not the 2 wins he had.
Yeah. I mean, that it's really bad to go that far and then to lose is, I mean, I got Joe Kelly, who's one of my buddies, has been forever, played for the Bengals, Super Bowl 23. I don't even think he's ever gotten his Super Bowl 23 ring or the AFC Championship ring out of the damn box to look at it. I mean, it's just, you didn't get what you were trying to get. And we lost Sam again. He'll be right back, though. Remember, guys, Monday, Rocky Blyer, legendary Pittsburgh Steeler, will be with us. And now Sam Teets is with us. As soon as I told everybody about Rocky Blyer being with us. We're trying to get Andre Reed, who I've been texting with today. Hopefully we can get him Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday at 1 o'clock. Also, I've got a call in, or I got a text to Chuck Foreman. He's trying to figure out if he can work it in. Legendary Minnesota Viking. Ain't no other podcast got that, Sam.
No, they don't.
No, they don't. So Rocky Blyer on Monday is a sure thing. Rocky's been on 4 or 5 times. I think he's been on the week of the Super Bowl the last 2 or 3 years. Great guy. I mean, you're a Steeler fan. He played well before you were ever born, and there's not too many Pittsburgh Steelers more iconic than Rocky Blyer.
No, he's not Hall of Famer, but I think everyone who's a Steelers fan should know who he is. He's one of those guys who still epitomizes the Pittsburgh Steelers of that decade, of that era.
Well, I mean, from getting, his foot shot up in Vietnam or the landmine, whatever it was. I mean, to be able to come back from that. Have you ever seen the movie Fighting Back with Robert Urich?
No, I haven't.
It's actually the story of Rocky Blyer in 1980.
No, I know the movie exists. I've watched stuff like behind the scenes footage of the making of the movie, but I haven't watched the actual thing itself.
You got to watch the movie. The graphics aren't as good as the stuff you used to watch today. If you watch The Mandalorian or something, whatever the hell that is. You don't watch The Mandalorian, do you?
No, I don't have a streaming service. There's no way for me to do that.
Do you know what The Mandalorian is?
Yeah, I know what The Mandalorian is, Mike.
It's stupid, right?
I have no idea.
I don't
know my friends like it.
I don't know what The Mandalorian is. Get new friends. That's what I would say.
That's what you would do. That's not what I would do.
What I would do, yeah. I've only got like 3 friends.
Well, yeah, it's not that hard to replace.
We only talk on the phone. I don't like people coming to my house.
Yeah, you've told me before. You've told me that.
I don't like people visiting. I don't want people visiting me. I don't go visit other people. So, even irritates me, when my daughter comes over, unless the grandkids are with her, and it still irritates me unless you call ahead of time and ask permission. I just don't want people showing up at my door. I just don't.
That's fair.
I mean, number one, I got a coon dog, a pit bull, and a lab that all go nuts if you knock on the door. You think Armageddon's coming. You think you're inside the Capitol and there's somebody trying to get in to beat you up.
Man, I guess it's happened to those 3 dogs. How loud is a pit bull? I've never had a pit bull, so I don't know how loud.
He's got a deep bark.
Oh, it does?
Actually, the lab is louder. But the lab's chilled out because the lab wants everybody to pet him. We take him to the beach, and by the beach, I mean in Brookville, Indiana, and he'll swim around, and everybody has to pet him before he's happy. And the coon dog's scared of everything because if I just get pissed off at something that's not even him, he'll run behind my chair and curl up and hide. That's about it. And then the pit bull's still a puppy, so he drives the lab nuts. So we had to keep the pit bull in a room all day until my son gets home to let him out, just in case they decide to attack him. Because the old dog, the lab's like 9, and he don't play no mess. So as soon as those dogs start running around joking with him, it's over.
He's done. Yeah.
He's done. He'll grab him by the neck, and you just see him. He's just thinking, man, I should kill him, but then I'll get in trouble.
Oh.
But, all right. Anything else, Sam?
Nope, that's everything.
All right, guys, we'll be back at 1 o'clock on Monday. Remember, Sunday night, myself and boxing historian Christopher Shelton will be on to break down some film of legendary heavyweight contender Jimmy Young, who had a title shot against Muhammad Ali where people thought he got ripped off at his decision. Also had a couple other bad decisions. But make sure you check us out. Jimmy Young, Sunday night at 7 o'clock Eastern time on the Old Time Boxing Show. Make sure you follow Sam Teets at Sam Teets33. You can follow me at Grueling Truth. Go follow us on Rockfin Facebook, where I think we're up to like 97,000 followers now, Sam.
Yeah, we're almost there.
Yeah. And I got nothing else. Pathofpurity.direct. Make sure you hit up pathofpurity.direct for the best CBD out there. It's a tablet. You put it under your tongue. It's time released, goes into your blood system immediately, and then releases occasionally over the next 12 hours. Make sure you check out Path of Purity at pathofpurity.direct. Rocky Blyer at 1 o'clock on Monday, next week's Super Bowl week. So for now, for Sam Teets, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been watching and listening to The Grueling Truth.